example, where there were many department stores and grocery stores. So because I am not a born and bred Buffalonian.
Okay, so
I can speak to some of the new things that are coming.
well, I can speak to some of the old stuff.
Right.
Okay, so you mentioned in terms of this strip, it was actually you considered as uptown and downtown back in those days, years ago. Sackler and all of that is as we get down Broadway past Fillmore. There was a whole nother shopping district where people would come to shop for goods and doing all types of stuff. So you had this is the building
The theater.
the theater. We used to go to that theater. It didn't cost but 35 cents to get in.
But it's going to be renovated. So it's one of only 2 black-owned theaters in the state of New York.
Yeah.
And the Western New York Media Professionals, which is a black-run organization, has been working for years to renovate it. And so they're going to bring it back to its glories.
And back in those days, back then, years ago, all of the entertainers, they would come here, like James Brown, Elvis Presley, all of those different big time entertainers. This was one of the theaters they came in. They used to call it back then the Century Theater. And then as we go up, there's another theater that's up on Jefferson. You'll see that. I don't know how far we're going, but we pass a number of different things. But if you look at a lot of the different on the side streets, you see a lot of new development. This is considered as the Sycamore Village, which is some expensive market rate housing. And then on this side, you have housing that's for low income. You have various types of different types of houses that's built in these different areas. But if you look at a lot of the vacant lots, that's where a lot of the old houses used to be, and old businesses used to be, and they tore them down.
There's 7,000, I believe, vacant lots in this part of the city.
Yeah. So you got more lots, you got more vacant lots on this side of Main Street, which is actually on the east side of Buffalo, than you do on that side of Main Street. And that's why it's important in terms of us being in this phase of this the new stuff that's hopefully that's coming to this area.
Just to point out too, George, a lot of these streets, if you're looking this way, you'll see that there's straight shots to downtown, to our city hall.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all part of a design of a hub and spoke system that's based. You know, you got DC, you got Paris, and it runs from that. So that's a straight line to our city hall. All of these sort of.
So they used to call it uptown, downtown. Whatever you didn't find downtown, you can come uptown, which would be on the other side of Fillmore, which is going back that way. And as he said, coming down Genesee, Broadway, Sycamore, Clinton Street, all of that leads right to that district, that area.
And as you know, there are major thoroughfares in the community, and so take note, this is the beginning of the highway
Right.
that
Right.
cuts through the heart of
But
the
this,
east
and
side.
this is what years ago. I don't know if you guys know about the 33 project and all of the things that they're
33.
getting ready to start. This is 33. This is where they dig out the Humboldt Parkway, build this so people will be able to have fast route from the suburbs to downtown Buffalo.
And I think it's important to note, George, is like not only was it originally part of the Olmsted Park and Parkway system connecting Delaware Park to MLK Park, but when you go south, you get into the Fruit Belt, and that historically was a lot of the areas that were redlined.
Right.
So that entire expressway was built and really had a very negative impact upon the East Side community. Because of, it was all about moving people out of the city and didn't do anything for people that actually
And
live
so
in the city.
this side over here, or to your left, that's considered as the Fruit Belt. And if you go as far as Michigan, that's where the Michigan
African American Heritage Corridor. Oh, the medical
All of that
corridor,
stuff
yeah.
is right on that side. But a lot of these different places years ago was you did not see a vacant lot. Years ago, you wouldn't be able to see a vacant lot at all coming down, especially down this strip. And these are some of the old buildings. Some of them they take them down, some of them they refurbish it. I think Bill Stadium.
No
They
way.
turned it into Johnny B. and Wally Stadium.
way.
They put it together to let the kids in the inner city to be able to have access to a sports facility. So this is the original place where the Buffalo Bills started playing football.
They moved, and
when
what
they,
year, guys?
And when they moved, they
In the
moved to
70s,
Bushwick. Yeah.
right? In the early 70s.
Yeah.
When they moved, there was a population in Buffalo proper of more than 1 million residents.
Yeah.
And over a period of 40 years, that population has been reduced to probably 270,000.
Yeah. But interestingly enough, the population has been growing in the past couple of years, largely due to the new Americans that are moving into Buffalo.
Yeah. There's a lot of
Yeah.
immigrants that's coming to Buffalo. So I don't know, but the new Buffalo Urban League is going to be, their headquarters is right in this area that they're going to be building. I don't know the exact spot. I think it's right in this area. They're
Yeah.
putting the new Buffalo Urban League down here. We're actually, this is Jefferson. This is the main hub, the main strip to the east side of Buffalo.
And newer apartment buildings, low income to your left,
Yeah.
being anchored by organizations like Belmont and Say Yes. Say Yes, that is an educational organization that's come to our community for about 25 years or so. And Belmont does housing assistance and helps folks to get into their first home. And then, I want to point out to you, this is Tops Market on your right. This was where
The massacre happened.
I was gonna say.
This is where the massacre happened. They're in the process of building a memorial. I think they have a couple memorials that they're coming up with. This one here, I think, is sponsored by Tops Market. And they have another one that's supposed to be coming up later on. But the area is beginning to now build up. There's a lot of new people coming into the area, trying to do a number of different things to build up this particular area right now. This is the Meriwether Library,
We're gonna stop.
which is named after one of the black. I can't remember exactly.
I like Mary.
Yeah, Frank Meriwether. He was a firefighter and a publisher, right?
He also was a manager of a national recording group called the Gospel Six.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Or a member of his family, right? Because I can't.
No, it was him.
Same guy?
So I think for streetscape purposes though, for transportation, the city does have a design process currently going on for Jefferson Avenue. I'm not sure where, that currently stands. I think one of our challenges has been sometimes the city's processes for reconstructing a street is very long and drawn out. So many locations throughout the east side, many of our streets, particularly because you have a population that doesn't have access to a vehicle, you also have some of the highest injuries and fatalities on our roadways because the roadways for 40 years have been designed to facilitate cars moving from point A to point B as quickly as we can. And it's not certainly what we're hearing from the community, what they want. They want better access to public transit. They want it safer to walk. They want the bus shelters to be shoveled in the wintertime. And so when you have roads that are, even if we have parks, the city touts having a park within a 10-minute walk of anyone's house, but if the streets are unsafe to actually get there, it doesn't matter if it's a 10-minute walk if you can't cross the street without putting your life in your hands. And so a lot of this work, and it's been challenging because we've created a culture that is very car dependent in Buffalo, and changing that culture is very hard. And so when we start talking about how do we redesign the streets to make sure that they're accessible and safe for anybody, regardless of their age or their ability, what we like to do is our Healthy Streets projects help people imagine what they could potentially look like. Because when we talk about adding bump outs at an intersection or a protected intersection, what does that actually look like? What does it actually mean? We need to help people understand what that vocabulary is, and we can make immediate changes in the infrastructure to impact people's lives tomorrow. While going through that process and collect the pre and post data so we can share, hey, we got vehicles to actually travel the speed limit by simply using design. We don't need to use any enforcement out here anymore. We're getting more people walking, we're getting more people biking, we're getting more people using public transit simply by investing in what people are actually asking for and what they actually need. And so that has been, it's been an ongoing process. You saw on Broadway, there was bike lanes on Broadway. That used to be a 4-lane roadway, very similar to Jefferson. We know if there's 15,000 vehicles a day or less, that you can do what's called a road diet, going from a 4-lane to a 3-lane conversion. But if you try to walk down Broadway Avenue, for example, because the way the DOT process works, if there isn't enough pedestrians crossing the street, a traffic light or a traffic signal isn't justified. And so they took out a lot of traffic signals. Now it's very challenging to cross the street, and because you don't have a lot of vehicles parked on the street, a lot of vehicles, we actually put up some of our equipment when we first moved into that space on Broadway and found out that majority of drivers driving down Broadway Avenue are exceeding the speed limit by at least 10 miles an hour because there is so much space for them to go. Cars will pass other cars in the parking lane, in the center turn lane, so it was a step in the right direction. But our focus is when we go into many communities, no one is necessarily asking us for, say, bike lanes. What everyone is saying, can you slow down cars so my life isn't being, put on the line? And and then we take that information and all right, what kind of design treatments can work both temporary and long term so we can address some of these things? Because if all this development that George and everyone's talking about is phenomenal, but if you can't walk across the street to get there, we're not doing ourselves any justice.
So true. And I know for Kim and I, this is the neighborhood where we work in. My office is right on the second floor of the corner building over there. Kim is next door to me.
Right next door. Buffalo and Beverly Exchange Center.
Yep, and just to Justin's point, it's like for us or for me, one of my big pet peeves is keeping up with the striping. I mean, Jefferson is a major thoroughfare, and is it 4-lane? Is it 2-lane?
Is there a crosswalk?
Is there a crosswalk?
Well, one of the major things, especially on the east side, is to educate us, in terms of black folks especially, about a number of things. And that's all part of the educational component, especially when you're changing things from the way that they're used to doing things. It's an education component that you have to get them to understand. Listen, this is the way that it was, because you really don't want to know a lot of history about that building that you guys
I really don't.
between that building and several other buildings. But it's the educational component in terms of letting people know a number of different things about what's to come.
And how they can have a voice
And how they can have a voice in it and be part of it. Because a lot of times, especially when they had different groups riding through the neighborhood on their bikes and stuff like that, they always felt as though, well, that's for them. That's not for us. And that's where we established Eastside Bike Club, and we showed them the partnership with all of the different groups, and they felt comfortable now to be able to embrace different things that's coming on, because we educate them about different things to come. The new stuff that's happening, we got to get with clean mobility, we got to get with changing some of the things that we did back in those days to come now. This is the new time, and we do need the crosswalks, the striping, and all of the things that's necessary to make it convenient for all of us.
Yeah. So George and I both serve on the City Council's Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Board, and one of the main advocacy things we've done for years, which has finally got some success, the city never had a separate budget for restriping streets. A street would get paved, and it would get stripes on it, and then it wouldn't get touched again for another 15 years until it needed to get repaved again. And so there was no maintenance of any basic infrastructure. And so we have been advocating.
Used to come in, Rebecca took it upon herself to start striping different.
Well, she didn't take it upon herself. No, don't say that, because that's not. We had to get permits, and there's a whole bunch of hoops that we had to jump through. But no, the first year we were able to convince the city, particularly after what happened over here at Tops and whatnot, that they need a separate striping budget, particularly around school zones. And so they've been restriping all the crosswalks around school zones and doing a lot of that work. I think the first year their budget for striping, for maintenance of striping, was $30,000.
Yeah.
We did some research to find out what other cities are doing just in New York State, like Rochester, Syracuse, and typically it's about $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
Just for basic striping maintenance. This past year, with some support from the ARP funding, the city actually did about $1 million of striping. That being said, they contract it all out, which means the work isn't done when it's supposed to get done. It's never fully completed, and then, and there's all types of issues with that, and it's costing them more money to get the little bit of work that we're getting done. But that is something that we, George and I have been, having George part of the bike ped board, diversifying the bike ped board, and making sure we have voices from all the council districts there has been instrumental to get the city council and the administration to recognize, like, hey, basic striping is really all that we're asking for. Like, these are some of the basic things just to, so people feel comfortable crossing the street.
They found out, especially, we had a lot of problems in different areas on the east side. There was so many accidents, so much stuff going on. And after they began to see and to understand the necessity of the striping, the fatality rate went totally down from the way it used to be. We used to have, maybe in some of the sections, maybe 10, 15 accidents a week. And it's down to maybe now 1 because of the striping. And, let them know. And at the end of this year, we begin to see more crosswalks being done. And we begin to see a lot more work being done. And I think now they just announced this big thing that they're doing on Bailey Avenue.
And I think that's really important to note because that's something I think a lot of people in this room were involved in some of the protests, during the pandemic. Bailey Avenue, had multiple fatalities on it. It is obviously here on the east side. And through our collective advocacy and voices, working with George and others, there's now been $100 million that have been announced for redesigning Bailey Avenue and with an emphasis on bus rapid transit. Because it is one of the most heavily utilized transit lines in the entire city, but yet the entire street is designed to facilitate car movement, and they're expecting with just this simple redesign and creating some dedicated bus lanes, are increasing frequencies by up to 15 minutes on some of these lines, which is significant if you're transit dependent.
Now
You are going through the heart of the east side.
and that's what I was getting ready to say. Now we're on Michigan Avenue, which is another main port.
Maston, we're in Maston.
Oh, we're on Maston. Well, between Maston and Michigan, these are some of the main places that, if you look on the east side, there was a lot of houses in those different places. So that this is Pastor Bridges' house.
Where?
Right there.
Oh, that's his church?
Yeah, the big church. That's Pastor Bridges. That's his house. That's where he lived the whole bit when he was council president. But all of the lights that you see, mostly all the lights were houses.
Right.
As we come up towards, West Street, you'll see a lot of the new development going on. This is the back part of the Rock Pile. Back in those days, all of these different areas, they used to park the cars and different things when people would come to the stadium. This was some of the main places where they used to go. Then you got the Army,
Right, yeah.
Army National Guard is there. And that's a lot of the new development in, City Honors?
City Honors High School.
Yeah. So we're going back around from where we started, coming down Jefferson, and now we're on West Street, right?
Now we are on Best. We are heading towards Martin Luther King Jr. Park, where you can see some of those intersection examples. You can certainly see the beauty of an Olmsted Park, because I know we're all spoiled to them, but you can envision, the future of connecting, right? The parks, the greenways, and of course the trails. Well, you don't see this level of empty lots anywhere else in the city of Buffalo, and the east side comprises about 60% of our town in totality. So we are of the opinion that it has been underserved and under-resourced for probably about 60 years, and that's what you're seeing.
Years. I think
For a generation.
They counted, I think 14,000 vacant lots on the east side.
Yeah, that's the rough count that I'm
yeah,
aware of.
yeah, that's a rough count.
And so, the bike ped board, we have a sidewalk snow removal committee, and that's been one of our issues. Is like, how do we get the sidewalks cleared in the wintertime, even when the city has passed the responsibility of maintenance off the adjacent property owner, but when the city owns 14,000 vacant lots, they can't even take care of their own properties. So when you talk about walkability, it is a significant issue, particularly in the snowy city, of how do we address people's basic needs of just being able to get to the corner store, get to a bus stop.
And so, going into what Justin's talking about, I was just in a meeting with the new council member, Zanetta. She's going to make sure that they have some things in place to help clean and also to shovel out a lot of the vacant lots in some of the streets. She has a team that she put together to make that happen.
If I could just add to how the city compounds the snow removal problem on the sidewalks. Their plows drive faster than they supposed to. So it throws that heavy, wet, compact snow onto the sidewalk to where even if you have a large snowblower, you cannot move that stuff.
Yeah. You need one of them little bobcats to move it. But
And if you look at Rochester, they've been doing sidewalk snow removal since the 70s, where the entire city, if they get 4 inches of snow or more, the city clears all the sidewalks. And that's just
to your left, this is the entrance part of Martin Luther King Park. The Science Museum is on that side. That building is sitting back there. Is the Science Museum. This is the Martin Luther King Casino. That's right there.
Where is City Honors High School?
We just
just passed it.
just down that street.
Yeah, he did. He said it when we was in. Yeah.
Think Fifth Avenue, New York City. These homes are some of the most beautifully constructed homes
Yes.
on the east coast of the United States.
Yes.
Unfortunately, they have fallen in disrepair, but
They still got some that's still in pretty good condition on this side.
Yeah.
absolutely. But my point is that that can change as well.
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Most definitely.
Because who wouldn't want to live by a park?
Right.
They're trying to kill themselves to move by Delaware Park, right? Where the average home goes for $500,000,
Right.
right?
Right.
The average home here
Yeah.
maybe
You
is
said
35
average
grand.
home in Delaware is 500,000.
Not in
Show
Delaware
me-
Park is more like
show me
it's like
one
seven-
out.
I said average.
No, not anymore.
Well, maybe when I was looking, right?
Yeah. Maybe like 10 years ago. But not
Oh
anymore.
man, I'm dating
20 years
myself.
ago.
Yeah.
But not much changes, right? But we know those property values continue to climb, and these continue to decline.
Now you see Martin Luther King head over there. This is where the East Side Bike Club. We meet here every week. Then we start our rides here, and we go throughout the east side of Buffalo. This is the head of the Martin Luther King Park, and this is where we begin our rides.
So a little story about this section of Fillmore. This is one of the first Healthy Streets projects we did, partnering with George. So Fillmore Avenue North, you will see, had a full streetscape project done with bump outs, very pedestrian oriented. South of here was just a basic road diet. They added bike lanes. But what would happen is that cars would jockey for position coming through the middle of this park because it was 4 lanes and became very, very unsafe. And so this is one of our first temporary projects where we went out there with volunteers, with the East Side Bike Club, partnered with the city and restriped this street to do bike lanes on it, narrow the travel lanes to make it work better. So we collected the pre and post data, showed that it worked, and then a year after the pilot project, we got the city then to come in here and make the striping permanent. Then this was back in 2017, and so we've been trying, again, knowing that we have the ability to work more quickly and on the fly to do these types of projects. And many times it's just a function of paint, and paint can be so inexpensive. It costs us about $5,000 to do the redesign of an intersection and implement that, where if the city was to do it, it's going to cost them over $250,000.
So one of the main things that we emphasize
We can get off,
about
guys.
that
This is
Oh.
our stop.
Oh, that's right. We're getting up and walking.
is paint save lives.
That's right.
That's
You
the
lead
slogan.
us. You lead us.
Go Bike advocated for a lot of this stuff. We didn't have no striping. We didn't have no kind of striping over in the park at all. But because of Go Bike and us meeting here, with Eastside Bike Club, we made sure that they understood that paint saved lives and get them to do all of these different things. But this is where we hold a lot of major events in the park.
Yes.
Especially during the summertime.
Yeah,
And
the-
they are.
Our Juneteenth festival is one of the biggest in the country.
Yeah,
And
it's
so-
the biggest in the country. As a matter of fact, this year is the Juneteenth national holiday is on the 19th of, which is right after the festival. And there's other things that's going to be going on at Freedom Park.
And
Which
the
is
guys
down
wanna
there.
take a
festival
walk?
this year is incorporating.
Are
Yeah.
any of the
Yeah.
Yeah. See the guy on the e-bike? See?
Here we go. Necessary to do a 3-lane conversion because there was no one making any turns. But without the city having the resources to move the curbs, we did as best we could with the paint. And so I think the street itself works pretty well. I'm sure you know this as well. Don't give up at the intersections. Our city always gives up at every intersection. And so, everything is prioritized for traffic flow. And over there, as a cyclist or even a pedestrian, it's still scary. Over here it's still a little bit scary, but compared to what it used to be, it's those baby steps, and we're just trying to
And it's
continue to
because
make
it's a
great momentum.
major tributary to the highway, the 33.
Yeah, because
So,
if you come this
it's a
way, you go
connector.
down there, you get right to the 33.
I'm going to put my other hat on to listen to say this is a major economic development as well. So we already passed through Jefferson, which is one of our hubs of economic development, a lot of small businesses, and we saw that there's a lot of other developments like housing taking place. But Fillmore too is another economic development hub. So as we bring in striping, as we bring in intersection improvements, we're also helping the small businesses in the area. Because then people feel like they can park and safely go to the business.
Right. And
Or
it's,
take a bike and safely go to the business.
and especially as part of that economic process that's going through these different areas, they're focusing a lot on the infrastructure around these main thoroughbreds. So in other words, housing and things of this nature, they're looking to put more market rate housing and affordable housing in different. And this is an affordable apartment building right here that used to be a school.
Yep.
They turned it into an apartment building, which is now affordable housing. So they have a number of different things that's going on. And as Doris was talking about some of the better houses around the park, if you look over here, some of those houses are still there, especially in that area.
And that street has a history of having the doctors and lawyers of the community. And I mean the black doctors and the lawyers of the community.
A lot of the black doctors and lawyers lived over in those areas, and when also along that Humboldt Parkway area, and when they came through with the 33, a lot of them moved several places out to the suburbs. But it had a lot of the prominent black doctors, lawyers. I mean, everybody was there. It was business people. It was a really, really, and they're coming back to that. They're coming back to a lot of the different things, and they can't come back without making sure we have clean air. So clean air is the key to a lot of this stuff that's going on.
So the Olmsted Parks Conservancy took over our Parks Department over a decade ago, and they do a great deal of the management here in the park. There's the greenhouse over there. So you have all kinds of activity occurring here during Juneteenth. This is where our agricultural pavilion is, and you can learn a great deal about food and farm to table, and how to start your own community garden.
And in the Juneteenth festival, the Pine Grill reunion is one of the famous, best event that they have here in the park, and that came from being on Jefferson. A lot of this stuff started right on Jefferson. Juneteenth festival started on Jefferson. Pine Grill reunion, it started here. You got the Funk Fest, which is another big thing that at the end of the summer.
And the Pappy Martin Jazz Fest
You got
as well.
Pappy Martin Jazz Festival. You got
It has world-renowned jazz musicians coming into the city.
Yep. There's a lot of different things that's happening on the east side of Buffalo, and we want people to know that this area is continuing to strive and strive and strive. There are a lot of new immigrants in this area. As we went down Fillmore, I don't know how far we went, but they have a lot of different places down on that Fillmore strip Bailey Avenue and other places where a lot of the immigrants are.
And just to remind you, you've seen the development. Have you seen a grocery store?
Well, we passed by one, but that was where
Yeah,
the
we-
massacre took place.
I wasn't counting that one, right?
Yeah.
So you could just get an example that we have probably, I'm going to estimate on the lower side, about 45,000 residents on the east side. And, we've defined it as a food apartheid situation.
Desert.
It's yeah, we have food apartheid. Food
Outside
apartheid.
came and blew our stuff up, right? So we're calling it what it is. And, you can see, right, the opportunity.
But and now the immigrant community, especially, I think in this area on the east side, if I'm not mistaken, I think they have at least about 4 or 5 grocery stores that's been put up by immigrants.
Yep.
Yeah,
Smaller stores, in all fairness. Yep.
caters to mostly their community.
Culturally specific.
In terms of a lot of the new, they just had one open up on Broadway, not far from Fillmore.
Yeah, Broadway
It's-
actually has a lot
And
of
it's
activity.
largely the Bangladeshi community
Yeah,
coming up from New York City.
Bangladesh. Yeah. And then
Sadavi, who you'll meet tomorrow, who's on our team, is a young planner who's from that community.
Right.
So
Right.
he's always cooking us some really great meals for lunch.
Yeah, get back to the bus. I just want to say, I think that's an important conversation. We talk about other cities with the immigrant population. A lot of people are saying, what do we do? And here we're like, okay, let's welcome them in because we're bringing in population and business and all of those other things. So.
Grocery store. Right here on Fillmore and Fillmore and Utica, Fremont and Friends.
I mean, this is a good example. Like, this is one situation. So, with the Black Business Association on Fillmore, which is holding public meetings for the design of this, I came. The city asked me to come, so I came early. And we started. I don't spend a lot of time over here, so I started walking the strip, and there was a group of kids hanging out in the corner, and of course they started making fun of me that I looked like Wally Divac. Remember the basketball player from the Lakers? So I struck up a conversation with them, and they're all on bikes, right? And I was just like, hey, I'm here for this reason. The street crowds are coming. Like, what are you guys interested in? And they're like, oh man, bike lanes would be great because all the old folks in their cars are driving us off the road. And then I go to the meeting, and then the guy, some of the elders in the meeting said, why are you talking to those kids? They're the problem in the neighborhood. And I was just like, I don't like, which way am I supposed to spin here? So it was just like,
It's no win situation.
so it's just been challenging. And like the opportunity to put real bike lanes on the street was missed because you can see there isn't a lot of parking utilization, but everyone is scared to death of losing a parking spot, right?
Right. That Bangladesh grocery store used to be Rite Aid years ago.
Can I just chime in? Piggybacking off of what Justin said, I think it's a good opportunity to actually change the mindset of this community, because I hear all the time, even when I'm riding my bike, I hear people say, well, the bikers are the problem. The bikers are the problem. So I feel as though with this group, doing education, they will understand that we need to not only share the road, but it also helps the environment with, clean mobility and, and stuff like that.
So we're all going to get off. We're going to safely cross the street together. Right over here is where there's going to be a key trailhead for the East Side Trails project. We'll take a little walk through there.
I think that they've probably been better than
Example of sort of the level of the manufacturing that used to exist within the neighborhoods of Buffalo. Now it's just a storage place.
Well, there are many people that are trying to do something with it. There's a group of developers that are working in this particular building. But I would say what I'd like to add is that East Buffalo is the only area in the city that has this level of industrialized zoning with residential. So if you go into North Buffalo, you go into West Buffalo, it does not occur they specifically only had this kind of in this area and then in Lackawanna, which is outside of
And
Buffalo.
so that you know, she did say East Buffalo.
I'm sorry, east side of Buffalo.
Which people on the east side of Buffalo
Don't say.
don't want that to even be mentioned
Yeah.
because it's an insult to the east side.
Yeah.
And that's how I think when they came doing some of these changes,
Yeah.
they thought that East Buffalo would make the change, but the community was totally against
And
it.
can I'd actually like to say a little bit about that because I do apologize. Normally I do say the east side, but oftentimes I wear two hats, right? So I work with Empire State Development, I work with the city of Buffalo, and so when I'm in those circles and I'm working with developers, I often have to shift gears, and that's unfortunate because I know that the residents that live in this community prefer east side. But when I'm in that room and everybody else is saying East Buffalo, and they look at me differently.
Tell them George Johnson
I
insists.
know.
Tell
We're gonna get them.
I'm
We're gonna get
not
'em.
saying it's right. I'm just saying
Well,
that it happens.
and one of the other reasons was, especially in our community, when the name was supposedly considered as East Buffalo, it was never brought to the east side of Buffalo. It was never brought to the people, and they felt very insulted by just arbitrarily changing the name for the convenience of them, as opposed to the convenience of the east side residents
It's
of
like
Buffalo.
a branding,
Yeah.
a rebranding, but without neighborhood input.
Right, right.
And they do that quite often, right? Which is
Without doing anything to change.
which is the now the new 101 no of planning, right?
Well, and I think I've been one of the biggest advocates when it comes to that whole east side, East Buffalo thing. So
Yes, and I just wanted to say this is the home of a friend of the East Side Forward community, where they have their community garden. This is considered their pavilion. They just built this storage facility back here. They have all kinds of events occurring here in the community. So there are birthday parties and celebrations, and really looking to beautify it when spring comes, and make the logical bike trail to the East Side Bike Trail, which
which
will
is here.
start here.
Yeah. So, you know, when the city adopted Buffalo was the first city to adopt a complete streets policy back in 2008. But so whenever the city restripes a street, if it's on the bike master plan, we are seeing bike lanes. But this is that corridor that I mentioned in that, where you've got the back front of the beach. It's buried. The city already maintains this, and what our challenge is with the city is that they don't want to take on any new parks or green space because they don't have the resources to maintain them. And so not only have we been working obviously through this program with the Wilson Foundation, but looking at a workforce development program, because not only are we raising the funding and doing the feasibility work and then the outreach to build this trail, we are also committing to maintaining this trail because the city would not allow it to happen otherwise. And we need to figure out how to, how do we develop that and help build wealth in the community through that process to make this happen. So this is part of this. This would go, actually, the trail would go to here to Fillmore, and because we can't close the building, we'd kind of go around and connect back. Yeah, the little hook. Yeah. We actually have been talking to the folks that are developing that space, and like if they ever get their act together, we would love to see the trail actually go through the building, which would be really cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And this used to be a park.
Wow.
What Mr. George described to me was, I think this is why some of these trees are here. So this was actually a green space for the community at one time that was just abandoned.
Fillmore Forward has taken it over, and we've incorporated their landscaping plans for this space as part of the trail, and they see it as a huge benefit because obviously then people in the neighborhood can easily access it.
And these are their raised beds, and he was asked, he needs water, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he has to go, I don't know where the nearest water source is, but it's really far. It's a hydrant really far on one of the streets, and they literally have to connect like 8 hoses to just access the beds. Isn't that something? But they do. These volunteers come and they do this every year. Yeah. So I think this is so interesting, right?
see like yeah, this really shows you like this green space has existed for decades, but has been such under disrepair. A lot of our community outreach, like people said, they didn't even know this space existed, and they live in the neighborhood. We also know that this place is not, you can see with the garbage, not well maintained by the city. Even though they do mow it, but that's really the only maintenance that they actually do provide.
And they only mow it twice a year.
Maybe once a month if we're lucky.
Is the creek underneath here?
Yes, and that's why there's no buildings on here, is because the creek is a storm drain now underneath this space. And so this is a huge opportunity, and Brendan's been leading this effort. So Brendan, please.
I just wanted to take a moment to say, just listen. You know that right around that corner is the 33.
Yeah.
So this trail actually goes over the 33. There's currently a pedestrian bridge there, and then proceeds on the other side. But you know, just to note that like even when we're thinking about designing green spaces, there are not many green spaces in the city of Buffalo, especially in the east side, that are not somehow exposed to cars, even if it's, you know, an auditory thing. It's something that, you know, if we have to keep in mind as well, like we're not just thinking about the dangers of pollution and being hit by a vehicle, but the other aspects of vehicles.
You're right.
Has there ever been any talk about opening up the creek?
I don't see no sound
There's
barrier
been
wall here.
discussion in the past on that. I know so Buffalo Niagara Waterkeeper is
Yes,
doing a
yes.
study
Yes,
on all that,
and
but
we're
I don't
part of
think that
that.
there is any significant discussion about actually daylighting it because it is used now as a sewer.
Well, we're part of that conversation with Buffalo Niagara River Keepers. We're presenting it to the community to find out what they would like to see in terms of as things change, because you know this creek leads right over to Forest Lawn Cemetery also, you know, so
And the water that comes out of Forest Lawn is essentially considered dead.
right. So we're having conversation now, trying to figure exactly where we're going from this particular point with the Jack with the information.
My thing
Yeah, it
is,
really
why
could be.
not bring it back to life?
Yeah, you could like
Allow us
combine
to have water.
the biking.
You wanna
and the
spend a couple
walking
billion?
and the
That's a
gardening
good project.
And the trail, I think the trail could be moved if this does get daylighted. The trail could be moved down the line. The
But you
point
could-
is
you could
like
keep
use.
it along the side. couldn't
Yeah,
you?
absolutely. There's ways to
Also-
design it and do both.
On the
Yeah.
west side, there's a bike path that runs along the creek.
Yes.
Yes.
So what is the design for the bike path here?
Brendan.
Sorry, what was the question?
So what's the design plan for the
The
path?
design. So right now we're just in like a concept phase.
Yeah.
So we really have like widths of the path, not perspective, but like potential spacing for lighting. But once we get into final design, so like right now we're having conversations with the city to address their concerns about like the preliminary 20% concept design. Once we finalize that, then we'll be going into an RFP process to identify the contractor who will do the final design. So, you know, we don't have anything like detailed drawings right now. It's more just like lane width or path width and lighting spacing like that.
Is it going to be paved?
Yes.
Yeah. And we actually had designed it for 12 foot, and the city said we want 16 foot. Well, okay.
So we're getting them cost estimates for both widths.
Great.
Yeah, and I think so. Brendan, another point I just want to bring back to you. You'll see some signs over here: no toxic tunnel. We're not going to delve into that too much, but there is a huge pushback from the community about the future of the governor's plan for the Kensington Expressway, because their plan is to put a cap over it, which does nothing for the air quality issues. And of course, DOT is designing it with they added a key element to the purpose and needs statement for the EIS, or they didn't do an EIS as a environmental assessment for $1 billion infrastructure project, but they included not only reconnect the community, but maintain or improve existing level service for vehicles. And so by doing that, anything that the community actually wanted has been wiped out. You know, the opportunity to, bring back the Olmsted's original vision. You know, many of the people in the community are saying we don't want an expressway, we'd like better public transit and our sidewalks shoveled. Like all those things are off the table. And so it's been it's like 800-pound gorilla as part of this conversation. But I think it's important that you guys are aware when you see these no toxic tunnel signs, it's because the community is saying we don't want $1 billion cap that's not going to improve. The whole reason the community wanted something done in this expressway because of the health issues that it was causing, and a cap just pushes the health issues to either end. And so that's been a real challenge, for some of the conversations we've been having.
And that conversation has been a hot mess.
And it's come up at our town halls.
Yes.
So we've had to develop some interesting talking points about how to say, well, that's not our project.
Right.
But, we recognize that it is integrated, right? And that we are continuing to seek a solution.
Yeah, because the what we like to affectionately call the bathtub section, which is getting the cap, which is just over here. It is at grade right over here because of this drain that's we're currently standing on top of. And the goal, the vision that the community has always had is to reconnect MLK Park and Delaware Park again through this parkway. But you can't do a tunnel underneath this drain. That's a huge engineering challenge. If money wasn't an issue, maybe, but it is.
And they say
and so this is where
the big trees won't grow over the cap.
Yeah, and
Like
so the cap is
height of-
only going to be 8 feet deep, so you're not going to get like very mature large trees. And then and then they're saying that the membrane for the cap is going to have to be replaced every 20 years. So every 20 years, everything's going to have to be ripped up and replanted again. They're saying it's going to cost additional $5 million a year just to maintain after it's built. And everyone's like, well, $5 million for a public transit system a year would be amazing. So like what? So, and I understand you guys, being from NYSERDA and working for the state, like you just need to be aware of the challenge that this is creating for this project as a whole, which everything we're doing is try to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from the transportation sector. And here we are cementing the biggest source of greenhouse gas emissions in the transportation sector in Buffalo and impacting the east side with this expressway. So
And we do
you
have
can
a couple
understand
lights.
the dynamics and the communication around that is not easy for us.
That's why it's a mess.
Yeah, we don't know how to.
Great location for the Albright Knox Art Gallery when they was redoing it. They used to be right in that building.
And this is Northland Workforce Training Center, sort of the backside of where we were just. So we wanted you to see where you were coming tomorrow on your left-hand side.
And you can see Ready Bike got their racks out.
Yep.
Your left-hand.
There you go. So this is Northland. Their electric stations are right there. There are 4 electric stations. The only ones on the east side.
Yes,
Some
it
of the only
is.
ones.
'Cause,
They also have parking for alternative vehicles there as well.
So this is where you will be tomorrow.
This is for the Northland Workforce. It's the educational component. They're doing some amazing things on the east side of Buffalo. And then you could not have that without having Mana's Restaurant.
And this is
which
where you'll be
also
entering.
included in there.
You'll be entering in the A door tomorrow.
And if you go straight like a half a mile, you will run right into Meridian.
I know how to get Brittany to my
I have a lot of birthday parties right now.
So we like to brag about the architecture of the Northland Workforce Training Center.
Well, this is
Because
it.
this is one of the very few original, forgive me, I don't remember the architectural name for this type of roof, but that they no longer
I didn't know where you wanted me to stop.
but that these folks preserved it. And you know that the train station is there
No.
or there?
What train station?
This side.
The
So
railway, the terminal.
the trains originally stopped right in the back of all these manufacturing areas. So if you see, this was all old manufacturing. This is what remains. But they've tried to duplicate the sense of the 20th century industrialization by some of the artwork that you see. And when you go into the building tomorrow, you'll see that they've recreated that through some of the old relics, some of the equipment that was originally in the factory. So it's very beautiful, and this is an example of, an old manufacturing facility that has been brought back to life and now serves as an asset to the community. We've got the corporations that are the tenants on the one side, and then of course Alfred State and EOC and ECC that are here, and then Manus. But I thought, oh gee, why does that look like, well, because that was the manufacturing process that existed here with some of the belts and the chains and the turning wheels. So I thought that was so creative.
And that's the
created by
patio that
students from
Mana
New Beach.
used for entertainment and eating during the summertime.
Students made that. You want to let them know that? Students were actually the ones that helped to develop this artwork and install it.
Isn't it from the Foundry? Was it from the Foundry?
And so if you're ever in Buffalo and you want to have a yummy, delicious, healthy bite and or a fish fry, Nana Restaurant is the way to go. And if you feel like on a Friday or a Saturday, you might be able to listen to jazz music.
Yes.
On the patio.
Right.
And the Northern Workforce Training Center just got an $800,000 investment for additional green job training. So they're a main training site for mostly related to electrician preparation training and welding. Advanced manufacturing. They're moving into other green industries as well.
And Stephen is very excited about that part because it just helps to bring more students onto the campus.
Do you know if they do solar panel manufacturing?
They don't do manufacturing, so clean tech, the thing that she was talking about, I think that involves several different kind of related industries, but this area will have actually a solar array soon. They're doing a grid here, many grids.
Okay.
And so the whole campus is supposed to be going to be a clean campus.
Okay.
And I think the intent is that there would be able to be the job site training with the array, like to train in solar industry with the array. And NYSERDA recently did the workforce, there was a journey of young people around the state, empowered state, and they brought several high school students here to learn about green jobs and what opportunities there are in the green industry as well.
So we're very proud of this place, and we know that Ready Bike will have their bikes here. But if you notice, it's like a huge 1 mile, right, walkway between the main avenue there and the main avenue here. And
Which is Fillmore and Gregg.
it would be nice, right, to have mobility options. So if you want to if you want to get to the other side, pick up your bike, because I've seen people walking this in the winter, right? Folks, this is the cross through right here for people in the community. They use this because it's deemed safe, right? You've got all kinds of 24-hour a day manufacturing happening, and then Northland has security. So I wanted to mention that. We can absolutely move to Delaware.
Through the Bike Head Board, it's our responsibility to review all cities' thoroughfare plans for projects, and to give them. We don't have any governing authority like a planning board, but we do provide recommendations. And our recommendation here was, either all these facilities have off-street parking. Do we need to maintain on-street parking? Could we narrow the lanes down more? Could we add protected bike lanes? And we, of course, got snubbed. And now, of course, all the facilities saying cars are going too fast down this street now.
Actually, it's funny because I talked to the Buffalo Urban Development Corporation, is the organization that is redeveloping this area, the Northland area. And so one of the comments that was made was, the traffic is going too fast. Can we talk to your group about your activities and see if this could be an area for the project? I said, well, you're going to have to talk to her.
We have some of the recommendations we wrote 5 years ago. But there's always opportunity.
Yeah.
But again, it's so they've already invested so much, it's hard to rip up something new and redo it again because they got it wrong. Turn to the left, right? And this has been our struggle with our public works department of educating them as well. I actually spend one of the best investments that we've made as an organization is that the city doesn't invest in their staff for continuing education. And so we've been sending city DPW staff to NACTO conferences so they can get a better understanding of what other cities are doing. But this is an expense that we are bearing as an organization to try to train city staff, because otherwise, so they can make better decisions, and so not every project is a fight, right? But I'm constantly feeling, as a nonprofit organization, we're being told to do the work that the city should do.
That the citizens are paying the taxes in order for the public works to do. Okay,
And right up the street here is ECMC.
Right,
The
our main
hospital is
public
right
benefit
there.
hospital is right here. You may not be able to see
We're
it.
coming up to Seneca Vocational High School,
Here it is.
which they changed it to MST. That's actually the school I went to back when it was Seneca. It was a vocationary school where it only had young men. And since then they changed it to MST. What is it? Math, Science, Technology. Yeah. So they changed the name. They changed the format of the way things used to be. And this is one of the schools. And then on the back side of that, which is on the other side, is Lillian T. Wright School, which is a lower grade level school. But this again is one of the main strips on the east side of Buffalo that always had a lot of things going on with it, and it's coming back. And as we come down past Fillmore, this is where the East Side Bike Club e-bike library is going to be.
And you're coming into the Hamlin Park neighborhood?
Right into the heart of it. As we cross Humboldt, going past Fillmore, we enter into the Hamlin Park neighborhood.
I just wanted to say, you mentioned ECMC, which is the hospital that they just spoke of. That's one of our anchor organizations.
Yeah.
Talking about safety. Yesterday, a e-bike rider was hit right on this corner.
Yeah, right on this corner.
Laid out right there, that corner right here.
And he didn't have on a helmet.
I was just wondering about that.
Far as we know, I think we didn't get the report after that. But this used to be back over here. All of that used to be Sears. Sears and Roebuck used to own all of that back over there. That was their warehouse. And then Sears was right up the street here off of Jefferson, which Canisius took over all of that stuff, and there's a lot of stuff happening. But this is we still in the heart of the east side as we go through these different neighborhoods.
And right now we're over the 33.
No, we're under the railroad, the Amtrak railroad.
Right here is the highway coming up.
We back to the 33. This is where the 33 and the 198 meets, right up in this area, which is the 198 is right over there. And it goes down to Delaware Park and that.
So that's the stark contrast. Those homes that are dissected by the highway now would be the same type of homes that are by our parkway where the $500,000 houses are or more, and don't have the same preservation property values anymore.
So now if you look to the
on
right,
your left-hand side,
on the right hand, on my right, if you look over there, this is where the e-bike library is going to be.
Yep, here it is. It's coming up.
Yeah, that building with the building with all of the bars and the racks on it.
Yep.
We have to make sure that it's secured because we're right in the hood, and the bikes are very, very expensive. And that shop is where the e-bike library is going to be at.
Yep.
And it's going to be a grand opening, and we're going to be doing a lot of stuff. And our workshop is around the corner there on Kensington. We got a whole lot of things that's going on, that's happening, and they can't wait until we open up.
Yeah, it says welcome the Buffalo United Front, right?
Yep.
With the flag.
Yep.
So looking forward to this being, the heart of the community, and not too far is Main Street. And you'll see that we have another anchor institution coming up. I think we can just very, very lowly say that it's Canisius College.
Yes, Canisius College.
Coming on board, which was kind of not a surprise. I knew it was going to happen. So we had, our mandate was to get 6 organizations, and although I know I'm being recorded, so I'm going to make this.
Okay. You want me to put it on hold? I'll put it on hold.
Library here in this community. And this is some of the historic houses in Hamlin Park.
All of these different
So Florida Street is part of the East Side Trail Project too. So this connects over to where we were over on Fillmore, right through there.
Yep. That's part of that.
So if you took that,
You want to go down Ferry Street?
and went
Go down Ferry, we can pass the Freedom Wall.
over the 33,
Okay.
Yeah, just
you would end up
where you were, what exactly is connected here? Like how would you go to get to here?
Oh, so if we would have kept walking where we were, we would have gone over the pedestrian bridge that goes over the 33. It would have taken us a little bit here, a little bit to the right. It would have basically brought us to
Right here, 1490 Museum is right there. Black History Museum. Not Black History, Black Achievers.
Freedom Wall. We didn't have the opportunity to show you some of the older historic sites by the library where we initially started out. It houses a redeveloped Apollo Theater, which is one of the oldest theaters in Buffalo. And it was, kind of like anything you can imagine, right? I was thinking more like the theaters of the olden time. And so that is also a community asset. And you're about ready to see the development of the Freedom Wall, which took a number of years to construct. Mr. George, you want to tell them a little bit about the Freedom Wall?
The Freedom Wall was something that they put together just to recognize some of the old, the historians in the city, black people, for the most part, in terms of some of the significant things they made in the community throughout the years. Actually, there's a church that's across the street. It's a church that's across the street, which is it's called Bethel Church, which is one of the other old Underground Railroad churches that's not mentioned on the Michigan corridor. But this is part of that whole thing. As you can see, they got the names, the plaques with Freedom Wall. And right? As we come past, you can maybe recognize a few people. Who's the first person right there in the gold? Right, this one. No, this one right there. Tyra, you looking at the wrong one. The first person on the wall. Right. The first person on the wall, right there. Who's that?
It's either Harriet Tubman or Sojourner Truth.
Okay, don't tell everybody. So that's Harriet Tubman, the first one. And then, actually, do we got time to get out? Yeah. If we got time to get out, it's a good educational.
Oh, look. Kyra's warmer. It feels a little warmer.
Oh, the sun's starting to come out.
Yeah.
All of this. There you go. You guys know that all of this was done by local artists. This was all done by local artists.
Did they repaint this?
No, they redid all of this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This has been redone last year.
Tired of being tired. Right here.
You can take a picture. This is the information about him. So everybody knows who that is, right?
Wow.
You could not miss who that is.
And he came to Buffalo. He's been in Buffalo.
This is one of my favorite ones right here. I love the green. Mr. Frederick Douglass. I feel like he's looking at us. Like he's saying, "Go, my children, go."
Oh yeah.
And this is Miss Lydia Wright.
And that's Shirley Chisholm, buried right here in Buffalo.
Yep.
At Forest Lawn.
My congresswoman in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. She came to my 5th grade graduation. I'm serious. She used to come to my school all the time.
She came to Buffalo State and spoke for EOP when I was at Buff State. And she's buried right here in Buffalo in Forest Lawn. Shirley Chisholm.
She fell in love with somebody from Buffalo.
Just had a birthday this week. I think, how long did Eagle Door turn?
I'm not sure.
I can't remember. And then that's Barbara Banks. She's the editor for the Challenger. George K. Arthur. At least some of them did see the real before they died.
Yes, some of them did. Yeah.
And she's still living. She's still living.
Eva Doyle, she's
Yes, and a big fighter for the East Side. Everybody knows Malcolm X. Angela Davis came to speak at Buffalo State, well, it was Buffalo State College, but Buffalo State University when I was attending school there. Oh, I don't remember. George would know. The Freedom Wall. And of course, everybody knows Rosa Parks right down there.